What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am coming back with some Terraria. I know, it's interesting, right? Never played Terraria on this channel. I personally am quite the Terraria enthusiast myself. I've played much Terraria. It's quite an iconic game for me. I actually haven't played modded Terraria before, though, so I am starting off today a modded playthrough of Calamity. And of course I've got some extra mods added on to help with the quality of life and everything, and with some other stuff. But yeah, anyways, let's get into this thing. Now, of course, we start off by doing what any epic Terraria player does, and click the random button 100,000 million billion times until we get the character we want, which for some reason took me a lot longer than I expected it to. I think this is okay. It took a lot longer than I expected. So we go with a large world, of course, and expert mode to spice things up a little bit, because, you know, I've played a lot of Terraria, and we pick the random form. It's because I have a mod that adds Crimson and Corruption, and we make ourselves a completely unique name, completely creative and unique name, and finally start up our world. With our world made, it is ready to enter, and so that we do. Now, right off the bat, if you've played Terraria before, you can probably already tell that something's a little awry, because that short sword's going really fast, isn't it? Well, that's because, in Calamity, you gain an incredibly increased amount of melee weapon swing speed, making it so that every melee weapon in the game is an auto-swing. This can be very useful, because better, longer swords, like say a broadsword, your swing speed is turned up to high heaven, as well as you gain auto-swing, so you don't have to worry about mashing click anymore. Now, in case you missed it, I just opened up a starter bag, which gives me all these really useful items, and if you, just in case you couldn't tell, a weapon from every class. You have a summoner weapon, you have a magic weapon, you have a ranged and melee weapon, and then you have throwing bricks, which can be used for the improved throwing class in the Calamity mod. Now, as you can see, you've also got a couple of little unique items here. You know, see, there's one called Revengeance, one called Death, and one called Malice. Each of these makes the game much more harder in some way. These are all Calamity exclusives. Revengeance is the first extra added on difficulty, and then if you have Revengeance enabled, you can enable Death Mode, and if you have Death Mode enabled, you can enable Malice. In this playthrough, we'll be enabling Revengeance and Death Mode, but not Malice, because Malice makes the game ridiculously hard. Now, of course, as any Terraria player does on their first day on a world, we chop down some trees and get some wood to get our house set up before nightfall, because we don't want to have to deal with the psycho death mode mobs that have begun to spawn. Of course, since all of the basic mobs like slimes and zombies have higher jumps due to death mode being enabled, we create a deep pit next to our house, as well as going and getting some rope to be able to get in and out of that pit easily. Now, of course, the guide, being the dumb, stupid idiot he is, God, I hate this keep your stupid ass alive. Anyways, to keep the guy alive, I go over to the right to keep him off of my screen so that mobs can't kill him, because his stupid idiot ass decided to fall in the pit for some reason. I have no idea why, don't ask me why. We go back down into the cave, which is originally where we broke some pots to get some rope, and do some exploring, because, you know, we need accessories, obviously. And actually, after a bit of struggling to stay alive, we managed to find our first accessory, which is somehow Hermes boots. I have no idea how. I don't think I've ever gotten Hermes boots as my first accessory. Now, although we want to continue our exploring, we are sent home, unwillingly, by a lovely boulder who just said, Tyranno, I think you have been down here for long enough. You need to go see the sunlight and touch some grass. Now, of course, we completely ignore the fact that we were just crushed by a boulder and bask in the awe of how fast we can run now, as well as finishing that one room that we started earlier. We then craft ourselves a lovely forge to smelt up all that juicy, delicious ore that we got from exploring all under the ground. Now, after some decorating as well as some talking to the guide, the demolitionist spawns on the other side of the pit. So we take this as an opportunity to go back underground, to get the demolitionist to get in his room, as well as to get some more juicy thick loot down in the underground. Now after a yellow slime decides to bounce the head off of my shoulders, I then realize that this will likely be a reoccurring thing. And boy was I right! We then encounter a very long worm, coming to give us our daily prostate exam. After killing the long worm, we almost immediately after find the edge of an underground snow biome, and internally cry at the thought of trying to go through underground snow biome. Shortly after entering this snow biome, the theme begins to change. Later on, we find out that this theme is actually the Calamity theme of a snowstorm. But anyways, this theme is a banger. Why don't you guys listen to this for a bit? Ow. Now, of course, after dying to that dart trap, we charge down there and immediately get hit by that dart trap again, like the imbeciles we are. But rather than just sitting there and letting ourselves die, we take a potion to keep ourselves alive for a little while longer. Now, after going down the left pathway, we find ourselves jumping onto the back of something called Amethyst Crawler. Crawler seems to be a Calamity mob, which is basically just a gem-based creature that flees from you when you attack it or come in contact with it. These little guys give scuttlers jewels, as well as whatever gem they are made of. We eventually find ourselves our first life crystal, as well as a large deposit of lead ore. Eventually, after a little bit more exploring, we find ourselves back in the snow biome, officially in the underground section, as well as a bit of a surprise gift from a psychopath. And when I say surprise gift, I mean 90 damage! Now, of course, we end up finding another life crystal, although it is out of our reach at that moment. Oh boy. The underground snow is pain. You have spiked ice slimes, which shoot projectiles. You have ice bats, which hone on you like the devil. And then you have these insane, ridiculous skeletons that charge at you at ridiculous speeds. And after finding this life crystal, I try digging my way up and around the horrific danger of the railway tunnel before finding myself getting absolutely eviscerated by a skeleton. Now on our way back to the underground death biome, we're actually met with a pleasant surprise as we are attacking a red slime with our sword and it says melee proficiency level up. This basically means that now my melee attacks will be stronger. If you use a certain class of weapon a certain amount on enemies, it will level up, and basically all it does is just give you extra damage on that class of weapon. Now, I went to try and attack a jellyfish in a pool of ice water, which is apparently a mistake, because ice water makes it so that you drown way faster. Do not submerge yourself in ice water for too long, or you will die. Those things are very fast. Oh, there's 2 heart crystals. So, eventually, we found ourselves back at where we were before, where that skeleton annihilated us, but this time there was no skeleton left to annihilate us. And we finally dug our way up and created a safer pathway to those heart crystals. After we obtained the heart crystals, we took a risky move and we went on the railway and powered our way out of the snow biome. Now at this point we were pretty tired of exploring the underground ice biome. So we decided to, rather than keep exploring underground, explore our actual overworld. Which is funny because we immediately found a living tree and a chest. We explore to the right of the overworld and find a overground snow biome, which aren't typically as hard. But still, we get clapped by an Eskimo zombie. We end up finding this weird little pig thing right next to our house. And of course, what's my first instinct but not to absolutely murder its face in? Bacon. We take some time to explore to the left before finding a oddly placed demon altar. Of course, my first thought is, ooh boy, get ready for corruption. But it turns out that I was wrong. It appears that there's actually just desert to the left of my world, which is really weird. Also, don't want to forget to mention that on the way over to the desert, I encountered a mob called a Wolfram Rover. And when I killed this rover, it gave me items called Wolfram Scraps. Basically, these Wolfram Scrap metal pieces can be combined with other things to make some half-decent early pre-hard mode gear. Shortly after, I encountered another one, but this time, this one gave me an item called a Rover Drive. Basically, an item that gives you a rechargeable shield that turns on periodically, which gives you 15 extra defense, which is quite ridiculous. While looking at the recipes that I could make with the Wolfram Scrap, it turns out that the armor is quite like vanilla hollowed armor, where you get a different helmet for each different class. Now, I thought that it was probably time to start grinding out lenses for Eye of Cthulhu. But it turns out that RNGesus was not in my favor that night, as I only got one lens the entire night. Now you see, I wanted to explore beyond the desert, but these damn things kept spawning in and just completely ruining me. Now, over this amount of time, we'd been killing a lot more of those Wolfram dudes, so we had a lot more Wolfram Scrap. We used this Wolfram Scrap to make ourselves a Wolfram Staff, which is basically just a massive improvement over the magic staff we had. Holy crap, that thing is nuts. Now, it turns out that killing the countless amount of Wolfram drones and rovers and orbs and all of that stupid, weird crap ended up giving us an energy core from one of them. And this energy core can be used to craft pieces of the armor. And, of course, we wanted the highest defense possible, as well as we were using our sword quite a bit, so we ended up just crafting a Wolfram Helm. We ended up spending the night yet again trying to farm out lenses for Eye of Cthulhu, but yet again were met with very little luck. We then took the daytime to go explore to the right past the snow biome, and we find a living tree as well as, oh, that's gonna be fun later. We of course have to at least attempt to adventure into the Crimson after we're done with getting the chest from the tree, so we do that. We venture very carefully through the Crimson before encountering a big-ass red slime. We actually managed to cheese kill big-ass red slime before obtaining its special gel and teleporting back over to our house to see what we can make with it. It turns out that with Blighted Gel you can craft some fairly strong swords, but it seems to require post-evil boss items, so hopefully we can acquire that soon. We end up spending the next night trying to farm Demon Eyes for their lenses yet again for Eye of Cthulhu, but not a single eye spawns. We then try again the next night, but yet again, not a single goddamn demon eye spawns. We then spend the day finally exploring beyond that desert pit and finding ourselves a little chest with garbage. And that is how we end the episode, because RNGesus does not want to give me the lenses to fight the Eye of Cthulhu, so you guys will have to wait until next episode for that. Peace out. I will see you guys in the next episode of Terraria Calamity.